Thank you guys all for coming out tonight. I have a lot of thanks to give before the night begins. I need to start with our literacy committee here at the Dartmouth Middle School, which consists of our wonderful librarian, Ms. Gardner. We have two reading specialists, Mary Lynch and Stephanie Camara. And our reading support lab teacher, Susan Tulson. Before they leave, I also want to thank Charlene Monte and the students who helped us out with our string arrangement tonight. When I first came to Dartmouth, it was only about 5 years ago, and I was told that I was in a very fortunate position because I was coming into a school of readers. And that was a good feeling for a literacy coach to know that there's such a passion about reading in our school. I can safely say now, after 5 years, we are also now a school of writers as well. We couldn't do that without the support of an incredible English department team in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, our special ed department, the support of our admin. There's been a lot of strong focus around reading and writing for the last few years, and the result that we have is the poetry and art anthology that we're able to present to you tonight. We had over 170 entries this year, which is the most we've ever had. It's also made choosing tonight's finalists probably one of the most difficult things we've had to do all year. So if you're in this room tonight, I can tell you right now, you've come a long way. This is a big deal, all right? We're going to not waste any time. We'll get right started with the program. We're going to go through the booklet kind of in order, and at the end of the night, we'll be awarding our top two prizes for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Our first poet tonight is Zachary Kahn, and his poem is Writing Poems, called Writing Poems, and he is actually not here tonight, so I am going to read it for him. Zachary's in grade 7. When I'm writing poems in class, I think very hard. I don't have a clue what to put. Pencil in hand, gripping it with force until my hand turns red, head hurting with words like a tornado, swirling around, but still not a clue. Like an engine, I roar with fury. My mind is dragged by a riptide out into sea where it thrashes, splish, splash. I think of the poem again, and all of it stops. I try to relax. My grip loosens. I take my pencil to the top of the page. The title. It's so simple. Writing Poems, I put. Our second presenter is also from grade 7. It's Braden Norton with his poem, Journey.
Since the day I was born, everything appeared so norm. Soon after I turned 1, my reality had just begun. I was introduced to a world that most people wouldn't know, filled with many hospital visits and surgeries I would undergo. So many years of tears, joy, and pain. They were all part of this brain tumor life game, which my father and I vowed to never complain. I remember things like, soon after I took my first steps, I was given a backpack with the central line running into my chest. I was 2 years old. Many special and fun things that would happen to help make me not feel alone, like meeting Terry Fader and getting a letter from Sylvester Stallone. Yo, Adrian! I remember that third brain surgery that came with a big cost. It took months of rehabilitation to relearn all the functions I lost. My positive outlook on healing was important not to lose. To help me stay focused, my dad promised me on a Disney cruise, and we went. It was awesome. To this day, many people support me from near to far, from prayers to funding to meals. You know who you are. I'm writing this with my dad as we sit in our car, driving to my MRI, which totals over 70 so far, and I'm 13 years old. So if your life seems easy right now, it most likely won't always be that way. And through my experiences, I have something very important to say. So listen up and take my advice to stay positive and love your life.
Our next poet couldn't be here tonight, so Prutha was able to record her poem. So I'm going to show you a video of her reading her poem. It's entitled The Snow Globe by Prutha Patel.
See how the rooftops are covered in snow, white as milk. The people of the city are frozen in time, but wear a smile so wide it stretches from ear to ear. They wear big fluffy coats and tall snow boots. They wear red and white scarves and hats with vibrant colors. The children are playing in the snow, having the time of their lives. They seem happy, but then the earthquake comes to shake away their joy. The snowflakes fly around and around, finally free. The people of the small city look delighted, but inside, they worry. The blizzard strikes again and again. Their merriment is shaken again and again.
So one of the activities that we did this year in 8th grade involved author studies in their style. And this next poem was inspired by the style of Edgar Allan Poe. And it's an untitled poem by Connor Murphy in 8th grade.
The shutters thrashed my door, slammed me awake from my peaceful slumber. I rose to see the lawn and my windows scattered with shards of lumber. I rushed to lock my swinging shades. The moment they shut, I heard the sound of scratching blades. I run through the doorway to the kitchen table. I saw a pole with the telephone cable. My heart raced, my eyes darted around. Who could be causing me this torment? What could I have done for the storm or disaster to strike me? I stumbled to my car, the wind blowing, pushing me down. I turned the key and speed away. I feared that the past had come back to me, that my sins were here. The rain coming down, the roads grew slippery. The wheel jumped in my hand from side to side. I lost control of it as I swerved off the road into the woods, then darkness.
Next, we have a poem called The Photograph by Olivia Aruda in grade 7.
Black and white, but shows the color. Saved and preserved, but can be forgotten. It slowly retracts from the old rusted instant camera. The flimsy, unexposed film, yet to feel the air. Blacked out until the image appears, leaving you on hold. Fingerprints leaving an imprint of the second you remembered. Captures the moments of loss and happiness, all in one click.
Our next poem is Hair by Abby Maxfield. Ivy winding around, stuck in tight curls, a million strands of yarn filled with natural color. Tentacles with suckers sticking to everything it touches, randomly, strangely. As we get older, thin twigs, gray, expiring, falling out, leaving home. Threads weaving in and out like a grandmother skillfully sewing, turning strands into a thick, warm, braided sweater. Gardeners clip the long vines, changing the appearance. When it storms and we aren't groomed, our branches intertwine, getting stuck together, tangled, jumbled. They put a rope around our perfect limbs to keep our shape and perfectness. We see dead pine needles, thin and split, or wide, thick branches, cracked.
One of the interesting things as we get to read all the poems that are submitted is to kind of take a tour of all of the emotions that students go through from 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and you can imagine there's quite a ride sometimes. This next poem expresses one of those feelings that might be common in a middle school student. It's Pressure by Morgan Gonzalo, grade 7.
The same work pushed at our faces every single day. You're pushing us, but when is it too much? There's a world out there, sitting there still, waiting to be explored. Pressure coats it. It coats everything. School is everything, right? No mistakes, no mistakes, no mistakes can be made.
Our next poem is Earthquakes by Jaden Mello in grade 6. Our 6th graders did science poems, so that was the theme of most of their poems. So welcome up Jaden Mello.
Earthquakes. The ground shakes, the town rumbles, buildings fall, cracks fill the streets, underground rocks break, people struggle to get to safety. People are injured, the earth heals itself. People heal, they go back to living a normal life.
Keeping along with the science theme, we have The Black World by Summer Stevens.
Way up in the night sky, there is another dimension, the black world. Tons of small sparkles, millions even. Spirals full of magic, the black world. Somewhere in this blackness is us, in the Milky Way, our galaxy. Stars, different shapes and colors, bright ones and others not so much, the black world.
Our next poet is from grade 7, The Marine by Joseph Khalif.
He is broken down into pieces, then put together, stronger than ever. He's the enemy you would never want, and the brother you're lucky to have. He puts his needs into a pause to answer the needs of his cause. He is the power on the darkest night and the strength of our freedom.
Our next poet I met 2 years ago in 6th grade. I still remember the opening line to her poem. It was, I woke up with a dragon on my head. So you can imagine what you're about to hear. Leah Gippo from grade 8.
After a tough, stressful day, I de-stress by taking a long, hot shower. For the most part, it's very relaxing. Except when I forget that bottle of sweet-smelling shampoo in my room. That's just something little. I'll work through my hair with no brush either. I guess I'll just use my fingers to brush through this giant knot. How relaxing this is. Alright, I'll be alright. Let's just smoothly shave my leg. Oh my god, is that blood? I guess I'll just wait here until the bleeding stops. Oh my god, I have a huge school project due tomorrow. I haven't even started. After 20 minutes of standing here, I'm worrying about situations that did not and will not ever happen. I want to sing, but I'll just be off key. I want to finish shaving, but I'll just cut my other knee. I want to relax, but I can't stop thinking. Shower time. Everyone's favorite place to overthink everything and ask themselves why they haven't made an album yet.
Our next poem is Breakaway by Zachary Benoit in 6th grade.
A rock is broken apart. Rain whacks against its jagged edge. Wind rakes against its rough, rocky edge. Pebbles break away to small pieces of sediment. Then the sediment, too, is carried away from place to place throughout the day, flowing through rivers, carried by the wind to far, far away, through the dunes of a desert, through a forest and a large empty plain, till finally it is deposited in a small little cave, creating new rock to be broken away.
Our next poem is entitled Wings by Elliot Dion in grade 7.
I miss the way your tail would brush against my face when I would cry, as if to say, it's okay. I miss the way your giant green eyes would stare at me like huge, beautiful emeralds. I miss hearing your little meow, how gentle it was, like a feather on my ear. I can still hear it sometimes. Everything around me is like a photograph, reminding me of when you were here. But now you find your home in that cloudy paradise. You've grown wings. It's time for you to fly.
Our next poem is Dreams by Teal Galligan in grade 7.
Dreams, as wondrous as the birth of a new star in the galaxy, planted into your subconscious from small memory seeds, growing and preparing for their turn to take you on yet another imaginative journey. Each one unique, none exactly the same. This is the first chapter. Blooming for a time as brief as the cool spring, once lit, growing as rapidly as a raging fire, fueled by creative juices, expanding and bursting to their fullest, for they do not have much time left. This is the second chapter. Flickering of a long burned-out bulb, the images beginning to fade. They are disappearing. You try to hold on, but it's no use. The inventive factory has grown too tired to produce new images. Its machine is an overheated projector. The colors speed past you in a competitive race for an unknown finish line. The images are a blur on the forever spinning wheel. This is the third and final chapter. As amazing as this magical spell is, it doesn't last forever. The sun's morning rays play peekaboo with me, peering from behind the curtains in my room. The seeds have dwindled until all that remain are roots. I wake. Now comes the new day to fill the dream cycle all over again.
Our next poem is inspired by the 8th grade author studies we did. It's in the style of a Sandro Cisneros piece, and it's Vauveau's House, Christmas by Isabelle Lavoie.
When I go to my grandma Vauveau's house at Christmas time, it looks like it's about to burst. My mother, Vauveau, tias, aunts, and adult female cousins are gathered around my Vauveau's kitchen table, while my father, Vauveau, tios, uncles, and all my adult male cousins are in the living room, arguing about whether Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Along the side, we have my cousins running around, showing off the cool stuff they got, and as well as the babies being passed around like they're on an assembly line between the kitchen and the living room. My Vauveau's marble countertop is covered with turkey, chicken, steak, and my tia's famous beans that everyone loves dearly. And even though the conversations of the men and the women are different, you can hear them all at the same time.
Our next poem is Spoons by Stephen Way, grade 6, which is a remix of Forks by Charles Simic. He couldn't make it tonight. This peculiar and mostly metal object must have lurked out of a world of fire. It almost mimics a person's hand and forearm that is cupped and doesn't have any moles. As you hold it in your real hand and try to carve a piece of sorbet, you can see a mini version of your arm, supported by your faithful friend, picking up a heavy but small chunk of ice.
Our next poem is called Lost But Found by Ava Dragon in grade 7. I'm lost in my own cluttered mind. I can't see or hear. It's like I'm blind. Even though I'm going through a tough time, I know I'll be just fine because I'll look up to the sky and pray to God to keep me under his own watchful eye.
Our next poem is Eclipse on Earth by Carlos Geronimo in grade 6. Carlos, here.
All goes black on earth. A ring-like light floating in the air. The moon, a dark knight in shining armor, on the pitch-black battlefield, shielding us from the burning light army. As a new moon comes, and old must go. But as the seconds go by, light wins the war. All is well in the solar system, while the dark goes to hide for 7 years, and eclipses a piece of history.
So in the 7th grade, one of the lessons that we do is we study 2 poems by Billy Collins. One of the poems is called The Revenant, and it's about a dog who's come back to tell his master what he really thinks about him. In an effort to mimic some of that style and find their own voices, students often produce poetry in that same vein. So our next poem is actually called The Lonely Pumpkin, and it's by Tabitha Cobb, grade 7.
I am the pumpkin you left to rot. You left me behind for a better me. Was I no good with all my lumps? Did you find a bruise from being dropped back from the place I laid? Was there too much dirt on my back for your white shirt? Was my orange too dull for your green flaked eyes? Was I too small for your carving design? You're not the only one who thought this way. I've been rejected from many hands before. But the more and more that come around, the more wounds appear to roll around. Soon there will be nothing to love. To the eyes of you, I'll be a pile of rot. I'll be all dented, brown, and falling apart, with holes that cover me all around. My stem broken and my tears rolling out. I look around to see there's no one left but me.
Our next poet couldn't be here, so I have a video I'm going to show. It's Water Cycle by A.J. Pragana in grade 6.
The amount of water on Earth never changes. The water you drink has been on Earth for millions of years. The water cycle is continuous movement of water on and above or below Earth's surface. The sun provides the energy that drives the water cycle and moves water from place to place. There is no beginning or end because it is continuous. You will start your investigation in the hydrosphere, the largest reservoir, the world's oceans, lakes, ponds, and rivers, and streams.
Our next poet also could not be here this evening. The poem is named Spring, and it's by Charlotte French in grade 6. A cold wind blows through my hair as I step out into the cold air that seems to move so smoothly, I almost don't feel it. Birds chirp in their own conversations as the sun sets over the horizon. An owl sits in a nearby tree. I like trees. I sit down and write. My hands start to tremble. The winds may be bothering me after all. And I think, why do the birds chirp? Why do the trees turn green? I get up and walk around, and still I write.
Our next poem is Weather by Morgan Gonzalez in grade 6.
Splish, splash, splish, splash. The raindrops diving to the ground, glistening in the dark, while the breeze is making the leaves dance. The sun is rising. The warmth takes over the breeze. The rain slowly stops. The sun beams brighter. A shimmering rainbow appears, full with color and peace.
Our next poem is another one inspired by Edgar Allan Poe. It is Chosen One by Kevin Leong in grade 8. From the rising dawn to the setting dusk, while my body was sprawled across my medieval mattress, to when it roamed the creaking halls of my ancient home, you were there. Out there waiting, tapping, whispering, watching. Whether I was in the deep forest or the driest deserts, you were there. Always watching, spying, staring, knowing my every move. Why was it you chose me, a lonely hermit, to carry out your quirky deeds?
Next poem is called The Galaxy Poem by Kaylin Medeiros in grade 6.
As I stare at the galaxy, I use a telescope, of course. There are too many to count, all with stars shooting in and out, all with purple, blue, and white, almost like a firework, but with less boom and more beauty. Every night, I lie in bed, and I imagine the galaxy in my head. I hope and wish that I will see the galaxy again, and not just in my head.
Our next poet knew in advance he couldn't be here, so we recorded it. So this is Final Moments by Adam McGower in grade 7, and it's a response to the poem Turtle Came to See Me.
In my hospital bed, I took a crayon and began drawing. I drew myself, still as a child, playing on the warm sand on the beach. My whole family was there in my room, as I was moments from my last breath. As I finished my drawing, I left a blank person walking next to me. As I set the drawing down, my grandson took the drawing and drew himself walking next to me. Moments later, my eyes shut and my body was lifeless.
Our next poet is Serena Nadeau from grade 6 with her poem Stars.
Stars, bright balls of light that light up the universe like fireflies, twinkling in the night sky. A spectacular array of colors displayed right before your eyes, when you simply look up into the darkness above you. As you lay in the soft grass, you marvel at their beauty. In the dead of night, the stars provide light to guide you through the dark on your way home.
I love that I get to read this next poem, even though it makes me very sad. This is Books of the Generation by Cole Berry in grade 7. You have picked me up and bought me for $7.99. You brought me home. You started to read me. You thought my story was interesting and thought you'd get into books. But the truth is that you were born with electronics, not books. You slowly stopped reading me. Slowly, I get beaten up and torn. My pages turned to tan from age. It's been 1 year, and you still haven't finished me.
The next poem is called Steps by Hannah Santos in grade 7. Hannah could not be here tonight either. This, again, takes you through the mind of what a middle schooler feels. One step. I look down at the unclean floor that has dirt people carried on the bottom of their Nike shoes. My heart was thumping like a wild animal, trying to escape my chest. Why? 2 steps. I look up. Sweat starts forming. My cheeks are as pink as flamingos. I put on my music. Inhale. Exhale. 3 steps. People stare at me like I have a giant elephant on the top of my head. Why? 4 steps. Then murmurs. Murmurs here, there, right in front of me. Still staring at the dirty floor, I refuse to look. Why? The 5th step. The very last step. I look up. The school lights are brighter than the grand sun that shines brightly outside. The lockers are getting closer and closer, like they're going to crush me at any second. A tiny, salty tear falls from my left cheek, just like the drizzle of rain that comes right before a storm. Why? I realized then, all of it was in my head. I wipe away that tear.
Our next poet is from grade 6, Aiden Santos, and he will be reading his poem, Lava.
Trickling down a volcano I come, red hot sizzling, with a red-black burning embrace, demolishing anything in my path, with no hesitation, red hot sizzling. 2,200 degrees of blood-red flowing molten rock, oozing from vents in Earth's crust. Don't get too close to me, I'll make you flee. I can flow fast and slow whenever I feel, red hot sizzling.
John couldn't be here tonight because he's already on vacation, so he recorded his poem, and it's called Last Week by John Brum. He's in grade 8.
This is Last Week by me, John Brum. Monday, ugh, and it's back to school for me. Got out of the bed like a possessed demon. The day moves as slow as molasses, and I still can't do my work. Tuesday. Another day, another homework assignment. Does this teacher not have a life? With the amount of work we get, I'm starting to wonder if I have a life. The dinner tasted like algebra thanks to her. Wednesday. Hump day. That camel must not be in school, because this day does not bring me joy at all. I'm seriously considering getting an emotional support camel because they seem so happy on this day. Thursday. It's almost the end of the week, but don't let that fool you. Your only hope to not have a test is for a substitute teacher, and that's as rare as not having homework on the weekend. Half the time, the so-called study guide is no help to you at all. Friday. Thank you to everyone who got me to this milestone. Can't believe I survived another whole week of 8th grade. You need some special skills to do that. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got to go sleep for 15 hours and then do nothing important.
Every once in a while, we get a nice light poem. Our next one is called Christmas Lights by Natalie Purrington.
I stand in the cold night, I can see a cloud in the icy air. Small flurries of white light make me warm as they stand frozen in ice. They flicker like fireflies telling me a message. There are also ladybugs and grasshoppers, glowing like Rudolph's shiny nose, but they too have been petrified in glowing amber, telling me stories I didn't know.
Our next poem is Pictures, and it's by two 6th graders, Morgan Gonzalez and Whitney Berger.
A golden frame, a delighted smile, the colorful scene filled with radiance. The love and sorrow, the anger and laughter, show the way through life's journey. Birth to death, we show our memories through these frames. Light or dark, rain or shine, the pictures can always tug at our heartstrings. They can trigger emotions and bring warmth and love to our homes.
Our next poem is by Autumn King from grade 8. It's titled 8-7-18. She's not made of glass. She is sick of cliches and words used so often they become buzzing in her ears. She is made of ceramic. Pretty to look at from far away, but once you get close, you see the spiderweb cracks spreading from the center. If you drop her, she will break, not shatter, and she can be glued back together. When she showers, she washes off hopes and dreams, goals and aspirations. She watches as the tinted water swirls down the drain. When she goes to bed at night, the only thing illuminating her soul is the light from her phone, brightness turned halfway down, displaying Tumblr pages and Google search results. The clock shows 2 a.m. when her breathing becomes steady and her soul falls into darkness. The reason she wears black is not because it is as dark as her soul, but because she can't see colors anymore. And black is the only one she can be sure of. She floats in the hallways, her feet never touching the ground, because she's never really there. She talks to friends and answers questions, maintains high honors and no social status, which is fine by her. She was taught from a young age that it's much easier to be invisible than in high saturation. When she is home, she etches poetry into the walls, the dresser, her skin. Invisible stanzas in invisible ink on an invisible girl. No matter how hard she presses with her pen, she will not shatter, for she is not made of glass.
Our next poet is Olivia Crane in grade 6 with her poem Rose Petals.
Falling one by one like jumping off a mountain, like diving thousands of feet into the sea below, falling, falling, until there's one last piece of beauty to obtain. The fragile fragments of elegance cruise through the breeze, as they lay upon a blush pink bed of shadows, resting by each other, dying hand in hand, as the crisp spring air reaches them again, they replenish their beauty once more.
Our final video this night from someone who couldn't be here is Shreyas Rathod and his poem, What a Career.
At the age of 5, he was imagining himself trotting around the bases in the big leagues, the crowd chanting his name, wishing he'd be drafted first overall in the draft, hoping to be playing with the Derek Jeters of the league, seeing himself in the Hall of Fame. At the age of 22, he is debuting with the Red Sox on opening day, playing first base and batting second, staring into the eyes of the pitcher, making plays left and right. Now, at the age of 50, he is looking at himself in the Hall of Fame, remembering his career. He thought to himself, what a career. Left and right. Now, at the age of 50, he is looking at himself in the Hall of Fame, remembering his career. He thought to himself, what a career.
Our next poem is by Isabel Lavoie from grade 8. You've seen her once tonight, but we had so many great poems from 8th grade we needed to put 2 in this time. So it's called Because of Books.
Because of books, I was tossed and hurled through a closet that led to another world. I fell through a book that led me to a bookworm and a class clown that stood in awe as fairy tales walked the lands and towns. I cried for a boy who died when he tried to stop a church from burning down, and learned what happened to a girl who moved to a paper town. I met a blonde shadow hunter named Jace, and met an unusual boy with an extraordinary face. I met a sassy warlock who was his boyfriend in glitter, and fell through a loop where I met peculiar children and their caretaker. I stumbled upon a camp for demigods, who are the children of both men and Greek gods. I survived the deadly Hunger Games with a fierce girl named Katniss, and ran through a brutal maze with a brave boy named Thomas. I learned new spells with the brainy Hermione, and bore Shadowhunter's angelic runes, and I did all these things without leaving my room.
And our final poem of the night is Spaced Out by Mason Langelis in 6th grade.
Long outside my reach, there's a world of a million lanterns calling. Bodies rotate on a never-ending cycle, filled with life, dust, decay, and more. In an endless orbit, revolving around one goal, a ball of fire bringing warmth and light. The chain goes so far, light may not reach it, with its cold atmosphere touching. Then there's the outcasts of the dwarfs, ignored or alone, not with recognition, except for Pluto. Now, thousands of light years away from here, lives a planet that is bigger than all the rest, his name, the variable of X. And so we come back to the end of our trip, back to Earth in our spaceship. Welcome back to Earth, my friend. Now what did you see when you did ascend?
So I think you can all pretty much attest that it was an extremely difficult decision. So I have to say one more time, if you're in this room tonight, you're already a winner, for sure. There is at least one memorable line from every single one of these poems that stays with me. That being said, we labored quite a bit as a literacy committee, and we did come up with our top 2 for each grade level. For the second place finalist that we have today, I purchased a journal and a set of my favorite pens and encourage them to keep writing. For 6th grade, our second place goes to both Morgan Gonsalves and Whitney Berger. They can choose the color, is it? Yeah.
Do you guys want blue or brown?
All right, she's got a set too. Yep. All right,
Congrats.
thank you guys. Congratulations. Our second place finalist for 7th grade was The Lonely Pumpkin by Tabitha Cobb. And our second place for 8th grade was the video, actually, of John Brum and Last Week at School. Our top prize tonight, they will receive a $25 gift certificate to Barnes & Nobles, where they're more than able to buy their own journal if they want. Hopefully they'll buy some reading material. Our 6th grade first place winner tonight this year is Charlotte French. In 7th grade, she's not here, unfortunately. In 7th grade, our first place goes to Elliot Dion with his poem Wings. And our first place winner for 8th grade is Isabelle Lavoie with Because of Books. I'd like to thank everyone again for coming out tonight. The book fair is still open, and there are still some snacks left, so feel free to mingle a little bit before you head out. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.